You know how fast the attack offense can be. You know that it can flow seamlessly into the half court, and you've seen ball screen action where we can get into it off the fast break or we can get into it in the half court. So can we do the same with drive action? Of course we can. Now, when most people think about drive action, they think about it mostly coming out of the 5-out look. So, of course, you can do your drive action out of a 5-out look. You can also do your drive action out of a 4-out look. And then there's the dribble drive 4-out action, where the post basically just stays out of the way of the driver. No, actually, they're trying to stay on the opposite side of the ball to give the driver space to make their drives and to also create confusion with the help, making the help make a decision. Do they play the ball or do they play their man? So a lot of people don't think of a 3-out look as being optimal for drive action, but with the attack offense principles, you can get good drive action out of any look that you want, including the 3-out look. So just like there's a misconception that drive action isn't good out of a 3-out look, my attack offense, because of the name attack, most people assume it's all driving, it's all drive action. That's not true. That's a misconception. Now, can the drive action be used to create advantages and keep advantages throughout a possession? Absolutely. But the drive action can be used as part of the offense, and you can layer actions on top of the drive action. So while the attack offense isn't all drive action, even though people think that because of the name, it is a big part of the mentality that we have. We want to always be on the attack. We want to always be attacking the defense, and we like to attack the rim. The first teaching point of the attack offense drive action actually sets our mentality, and that is anytime we're on a fast break, if it's one-on-one, we want to get that ball up on the rim. There's no thinking about it. We're going to attack that lone defender. We're going to go after them. And so we start setting that attack mentality on the drive right from the bat with a fast break with any one-on-one. And then in the half court, obviously, anytime that we catch the ball, we want to have our eyes on the rim. We want to be thinking attack or score on a catch, and we want to be getting downhill.
Way up, but the no call. As Thomas will drive, and he will get the bucket.
And then we want to have the mentality we want to attack closeouts. That's when the defense is at its weakest, most vulnerable state, and that's when we want to attack. And we also want to attack gaps. So the defense gives us a seam or a split in their defense. We want to attack it. Especially when there's double and triple gaps, and that comes from the dribble drive Vance Wahlberg offense. Now for us, it's 2 lanes over. we're looking at a double gap, we want to attack that double gap. And sometimes we get really lucky and there's a huge triple gap that actually opens up in the defense. You can call that a super gap or a triple gap, but anytime you see that as a player, you want to be attacking that. And I know there's a lot of coaches that really don't like ISO action because they think it's selfish and those kind of things. Spacing is offense. So the more space you have, the more offense that you have. And ISO action actually gives that to you. And it's really hard to defend a player in basketball as it is one-on-one, let alone if there's a ton of space one-on-one. So anytime there's an open floor, we're going to take advantage of that ISO action and we're going to attack our advantage. Another teaching point comes from a national championship coach. When I was a young, new high school coach, he said one of the first things I have to do, he's like, Strick, you have to teach your players to get to the rim from the three-point line in one dribble. If I can do that at 74 years old and moving that slow, anybody can do it. And that goes along with a philosophy. If you lay the court out, you should be able to, as a player, one dribble to the three-point line, one dribble to half court, one dribble three-point line, one dribble from the three-point line and in. So basically, it should take you 4 dribbles to go full court. It should take you 3 dribbles to go three-quarter court, 2 dribbles from half court, and 1 dribble from the three-point line. Now, there's a lot of different perimeter footwork that you can do with drive action. You can teach a lot of different things. I'm a trainer now, so I like to just focus on the 4 major things, and then I add 2 of that if the player can handle that. So the first thing we always teach is rip. You got to be able to catch, rip hip to hip, go opposite, and go. The second perimeter footwork move for me is jab, and you can teach a jab a bunch of different ways. You can teach it ball jab, foot jab, cross jab, however you want to teach it, but the jab would be the second move that we teach. Then we teach a shot fake. And we also teach a pass fake. And really, when it comes down to fakes, whether it's a shot fake or a pass fake, they're all ball fakes. So you can teach any kind of ball fakes that you want, but I keep it pretty simple with either a shot fake or a pass fake. Because in essence, what a ball fake does is it creates a mini closeout, and we want to attack closeouts. Now, if you have players that can do advanced stuff, then obviously you can teach them advanced stuff. You can teach them a rocker step, which is basically a double jab where you come back to the same side as your first jab. You can teach them a Kobe rip, which is a rip over the top rather than hip to hip down low. So you can get as advanced as you want. I just recommend making sure that the 4 basic ones, that they know the 4 basic ones, because if they do that, they really don't need much else on the perimeter in their drive action. And now for the major concepts of the drive action. Now, just like with ball screen action, I studied Dave Paulson's ball screen motion offense to kind of get my core philosophies and where I was going to build from there. Same thing here. Probably most people stole most of their stuff from the dribble drive, Vance Wahlberg offense. So took those concepts, same thing as anything else, took those concepts, BU coach, made it mine. And the first major concept of the attack offense drive action is that the driver always has the right of way, and it's up to everybody else to move appropriately around that. But the driver can't be hesitating, can't be second guessing. You know, you always hear like, well, I don't know, are they in my way? We don't have that issue in the attack offense, because when the driver goes to go, it's their right of way. They get to go. Everybody else has to move appropriately around that. And that's actually why I didn't take from the read and react offense. Now, a lot of people like that offense too, and that's fine. But for me, When the driver would go and they would run somebody across, I didn't like that because I thought that that person was getting in the driver's way, and we don't want anybody in the driver's way. We don't want the driver second guessing. We want the driver with the attack mentality and attacking the rim and thinking nothing's going to stop them. So attached to that concept of the driver has the right of way, we want to give the driver a 1 second read time. And it doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of people say, well, 1 second, half second. It really doesn't matter. You're trying to give the players an aiming point so they understand when they pass the ball to their teammate, they don't want to just cut right through immediately where they're taking away drive action from their teammate. So we want to give them a 1 second read time so that way they can read the situation, we can read the situation, then we go from there. And a lot of times those decisions are already made. Like you should really be making that decision before the catch and then you go, and on both sides. But in case they don't, that's where that 1 second of read time helps with the timing of things. And you know, one of the biggest things I'll hear is when you have post players and the driver always is like, well, I don't know if they're going to get out of the way, and they're in the way all the time. You know, kind of, to me that's an excuse, but that's what a lot of players would say is the post is in the way, or I don't know if they're going to get out of the way. Well, in the attack offense, with the driver having the right of way, it's up to the post to move appropriately on the drive. So the driver doesn't even hesitate, doesn't second guess if the post is going to get out of their way or the post is going to move properly. They're just assuming the post is going to move properly, and the post is assuming they're going to move properly. Regardless of your alignment and whether the ball is coming from the top or the slot, if the ball is being driven at the post has two options to put pressure on this defender. The first option is they come down and they loop this way, so the defender either stays and helps, which creates the opening for the post player looping, or on the drive, the post player, what we call pops. I just call it a pop. Some people call it a Euro pop. You're putting that defender in a situation where they got to decide to go with their player and leave that driving lane open, or stop the driving lane, and now we have a shooter open.
To Rocco. Rocco will drive. He'll go up to the rack, and he'll get the bucket.
When the post player is away from the drive, as we drive, they got a couple different options. They can simply just stay put, especially if they have inside position. They can stay put. When it goes over, easy bucket that way.
Jarrell has it. He'll dish inside to Thomas. Thomas gets the easy bucket.
Or if the help defender stays attached to their man, it just creates more space for the driver. They can also, with the ball going away from them, when the defender steps, and this is a good teaching point, when the defender takes a step to the ball, post player should take a step to the ball. And what that does is it seals off the defense on the backside, and it makes that pass easier and that bucket easier to get. And they can also do what we call tee up. So once the defender comes over, instead of stepping over, they can go right to what we call that tee in the lane and looking for the pass that way. That actually opens up some other passing lanes when we do that. When the ball's on the side coming at the post player, not much changes. Really, they can do all the same options. So the ball comes at them. They can tee up. Ball's coming at them. They can also pop out, where that defender has to decide, open up the driving lane or stay and leave room for the shooter. And they can also slide up the lane line and putting that defender in that same spot. Stay, and stop the drive, or go with them and open up the driving lane. In this case, the post pops out instead of up the lane line, but same concept as it makes the help defender make a decision. So any which way that you do it, you're putting this defender in a situation where they got to decide, stay and stop the drive, or go with their man. So you can see with the driver has the right of way attack drive action concept, that no matter how many post players that you play, no matter what look you're coming out of, the post players know how to move, and they know that the driver has the right of way, and they move off of them. The second major concept of the attack offense drive action is our movement. And I've done this a couple different ways, but most of the concept is push-pull. But we always got to have a replace, and we always got to have a hammer action. The hammer action is an opposite side corner. First thing is a replace, or the buck action. We call it a buck action in the ball screen. So the first is where the replace is going to come from. Now, when I coached college, I was a little bit more intricate with this. So we actually would replace from the A spot. So even if the driver came at us, we actually came across and replaced that way. Now, it's a little bit more intricate. What I liked was that action, because if they're going this way and this player's coming this way, it caused a lot of confusion in the defense. We call that scissors action. So we could throw it back to here and we could attack. And you can see when you do that, you have a huge gap or a double gap to attack at that standpoint. So that's why I like that action. It was the same from the wings too. Wing drove, we replaced from the nearest action spot. Even if the wing came towards us, we still replace from that nearest action spot. And again, it gives us that scissors action to attack that wide open gap on that side. Now that I coach AAU, it's all push-pull actions. If we're going to drive right, the players on the ball side get pushed. The players on the back side of it get pulled over, and we replace that way. And if we would drive left, players on the ball side get pushed. Players on the back side get pulled to the replace. Push-pull, the replace is a little bit easier to get to, where people know where they need to be and who's replacing the action. Because again, when you throw the ball back to where it came from, that's very hard to defend. Now, the only time that push-pull might change is with our hammer action. That's what that green dot is, and I'll get into it later. But if we would drive right, pushed, can't go any further, the post there, pull. Now, instead of pulling up, now we could, because in the attack offense we can fix anything, but we would much rather fill that hammer action on the backside at all times. Again, we'll talk about that when we talk about hammer action. Now, if it gets driven to you and you don't have anywhere to go, then you just stay right where you're at. And we always want to play good basketball. So if a defender turns his head, a 45 cut to the basket works just as good too. Now, one of the things that I do that might be a little bit different than most people do is when we drive. Now, again, if we're driving right, push-pull concept, that person would stay anyways. And for us, they do stay. A lot of teams will raise them up out of here. The reason why I don't like to do this is because I don't want the defender coming up in that passing lane. I don't want that defender coming up where they can swipe at the ball. I want to put this defender in a situation where they have to make the decision. Do I completely step in where now I can see this pass, and that pass is down? When that pass is downhill and I can see it, I think it's so much easier for a player than if they're coming up and I got to pass it off to my side. I think it's a much easier pass when it's downhill and I can see everything. So we're putting that defender in that spot where they got to make a decision, rather than bringing them up where now they might take a cheap swipe and maybe get the ball. I don't want that action. I want them to stay down there and keep them down there in the corner. So that might be something we do a little bit differently than other dribble drive action. And then besides the replace, we also have a hammer, which the hammer is the opposite corner. We always want to have that filled. So we always want to have a replace filled. We always want to have the hammer filled. So the ball's here. The hammer is the opposite corner, okay? And I have it in the green. Now, when I say the opposite corner, that could be the corner.
Darby drives, dishes it to Rocco. Rocco dishes out wide open to Witt at the three-point line is good.
If it's a post player, that could be in the post or short corner. We call it the room because I'm not smart enough to say short corner, 3 syllables. I just say room. With this game up by 21, so this player can be anywhere in this situation depending on our alignment, including cutting in off the baseline. If we drive and the post comes up to T here, Now this player, now again in the attack offense, if we make the decision, we go this way, we messed up, we'll just fix it. But in this case, if the post tees, we can slide down, and now we got the hammer that way. You can see as the ball's being driven at the post, they tee up, and we still have our hammer in the corner, so the driver has multiple options. Look, if we drive, push, pull, because the ball started here, because the ball started on this side, once they go, this is the hammer side. Ball's being driven left, the wing drifts down to the corner, perfect window to see that hammer and that shot. Even if we would drive at the post, so we would drive at the post, push, pull, the post could either pop. If the post pops, then this player is gonna have to stay. If the post loops, now we don't have to fill this corner because now this becomes the hammer. The post tees or slides up the lane line, now we fill that hammer. But again, we want that hammer on the opposite corner or opposite post, depending on who that is, so they're all reading each other. This is why reading each other is so important. Instead of being pushed down on this drive left, the players are actually lifting because the post is sliding out, which is making them lift. So it creates that space. Nice open shot for us. On this one, the player goes baseline. The post drops down, but not far enough down where the driver can't see both the post and the hammer. Here, the post player actually cuts in front of the guard on the backside, so the guard lets the post player become the hammer while they slide up. Remember how I said earlier I don't want anybody running the baseline on the drive? Well, there it is. So now we got to fix it. Watch how the guard pushes the wing up, and we still create great space for our driver. Let's say the ball's being driven from the top. Push, pull. Can't go anywhere, can't go anywhere. This person gets pulled to the top. We still stay here. We don't come up here. We stay here because we want that hammer action in the opposite corner from the drive. And the other thing it does by not bringing the hammer back and keeping the hammer in the corner is if we run this kickback action here, it opens up a huge double gap for us to attack.
What can we do about it? Jarrell has it. He'll dish inside to Thomas. Thomas gets the easy bucket.
So the driver knows when they go, they always have a hammer and they always have a replace no matter where they drive from. Driver pops out here, so they become the replace. We got our hammer, creates space for our driver. Same thing on the break. We got a hammer, we got a replace, and the post slides out of the way to create space for the driver. And even in the corner here, we got a replace, we got a hammer, so the driver can make decisions and make good plays. And the last major concept of the attack offense drive action is we want to get inside the triangle. We use the triangle, which is it goes from the top of the key through the elbows, through the rooms, short corners for all you guys, but through the rooms. And that's our aiming point. Now, we don't want to say you have to get inside there because we don't want a shooter or a driver thinking, did the ball get inside the triangle yet? But we definitely want to use it as an aiming point, and we want to attack that triangle. And that works whether you're in man defense or zone defense. That triangle helps you get inside and attack those gaps regardless. Obviously, when we're getting inside the triangle, the driver's thinking score first. But when you get inside that triangle, the defense collapses. You're forcing rotation and recover, which creates open shots off of drives. Can create double gaps off of things like scissors action, and we attack that. You know, even if they're in a zone, you want to attack that triangle in a zone. Here's a good one where there's multiple. Attack the triangle once, attack the triangle twice, attack the triangle 3 times, and finally get the bucket. Same thing here. Multiple scissors action here. Creates a nice open shot because we keep attacking the triangle. We keep collapsing the defense. Even on a break, collapse the defense, wide open shot. Attack the triangle, kick back, wide open shot. So let's say you attack the triangle and you can't get all the way to the rim, you get stopped. Well, now what? Now we would consider that a drop zone. And in a drop zone, you're looking to drop and make plays for other. That could be back doors, that could be kickbacks. That drop zone could happen. Even the post could come over and be one of the cutters. So anytime you get stuck in what we would call this drop zone, you're dropping it off for other players to make plays.
Mancini with the ball. Feeds it inside to Rocco, and he gets the bucket.
So a kickback is anytime we drive, we get the replace, and we throw it back for the replace. That's the kickback action. And the kickback action works well in the break too, especially teams that play pack line or play off. And you can actually even turn the kickback into a one more pass for a wide open three that way. A throwback could actually be when we drive, we replace, but now we throw it all the way back to that side of the floor. So that's the difference in our terminology between a kickback and what would be a throwback. And the throwback might get there that way too. We might pass it back to the kickback and then throw it back to the same side of the floor that it came from. And then we talk scissors action, but you're still trying to get here. There's going to be a difference between scissors action, what I'm going to call dribble handoff or flip or pitch, is when we go into scissors action, we're still attacking that triangle. And then when we throw it, it's creating this double gap automatically. So as we go, they start to shift, but when they see this ball go back, they're going to stay right where they're at, kick it back. We attack that double gap. Now, the exception to the rule of the triangle is anytime there's a dribble handoff. So basically, if you're not going to get in the triangle with your drive, then you better be dribbling to an action. And that action could be people have different terms. So whether it's a dribble handoff, an actual dribble handoff where you stop and hand it off, whether you flip it, whether you pitch it, whatever you want to call it, or whatever you call it in your offense, it really doesn't matter. It's the same concept. We're going to dribble to the action, and we can either stop and hand it off. We could either on the run flip it to them or pitch it to them. It really doesn't matter, but we're dribbling to this action, and then off this action, we are thinking downhill on the catch, attacking the defense right now, because look what it creates. A huge gap in the defense. Even if this player starts to come over, if they see this action, they can stay right where they're at and let this action take place, creates those gaps, and now these two just be ready to shoot the basketball for this drive.
Marcus Thomas stood up top, dishes it to Conley. Back to Thomas off the pick, and they're going to get a bucket.
And like with any other drive action, you can layer it with other action like ball screen action here.
Goes up strong, gets the bucket.
I realize we're not reinventing the wheel here with our attack offense drive action, but I do think there's some differences. I do think there's some terminologies, teachings that we do a little bit differently that may help you out in your offense. So hopefully there's something in there that you can steal to make your drive action even better for your offense. If you like what you saw here, give us a thumbs up or like, subscribe to us so that way you can get any of our updates. We're past ball screen action. Now we're past drive action. Next up is going to be away screen action. Until then, keep attacking.